two long ones, actually kind of lie off a little bit, they make a V at the top of it.
Oh, okay.
It's coming out, I'm Yeah, Ruby will go a little bit down. So you get started. So on his, you can give kind of a little bit of a squeeze, not rush. You're good, you got plenty of room. So they're just enough. Like we're waiting patiently.
The patient things we can't do it, right?
As you can see, they love their morning bottles.
Oh, yeah.
All up nights. These guys can get up 25 mile an hour, so if they got loose, that's why I say, why
Oh, yeah.
say, wouldn't be an easy catch.
Do these guys get outside time?
We do, we call this our backyard. Right out the back doors here.
It's all fine, sir. I think it's all going.
Yeah, we'll put you away, because you'll try to take babies. There you go. Hi, Rachel.
You're bossy.
10 o'clock we do.
It's all going.
Now, we'll put them away until we get done. If not, we'll steal the babies.
These are empty. You know that,
Hey, where's the other flag at?
They should be up above the brooms and the rakes. That's where they were. But no guarantee that. I'll take these ones to the other box.
Morning.
Nice show.
He might be loading today. Go fly.
Hey, ladies. Alright, so I'm gonna let hold little Phoebe there. I'll feed Rachel. Come here, little bits. Come here. You were just moving a second ago. Come on, sweet girl. So if you'll hold that, I'll get her flipped over for you. Lucky here.
Oh, my goodness.
You're so cute.
She said, please.
Oh, good one. Good job. So you can pull a baby kangaroo at 7 months from its mama, and that way you can become the nurse supply. So they're perfectly fine. You have to wait until they start to come out of the pouch from mom.
Right.
And once they consecutively come out of the pouch a couple of days, then it's okay to pull. Then as long as you offer the supply. Which they don't make a kangaroo formula, which is Escalite, which is a puppy formula.
Okay, yeah.
And these two little ones, they get 3 times a day.
Oh my gosh. She's baby.
Yeah, she's right at 8 months and this one's 9 months. And then once they're 18 months, we'll put them out in the field with the big kangaroos. picture inside of her house. The lady kangaroo, it's really cool.
This camel's cracking me up.
Yeah. You're trying to get out on the way. So that is actually in the pouch of one of our kangaroos.
Wow.
It is tiny.
It's so small.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Yes. So when you put them back out with like her mom, for example,
They won't recognize.
they don't have like a maternal or whatever.
No, they won't recognize.
Yeah, do they have like herd order or pecking order where they go out and they?
Not really. So the females, it's interesting. They all pretty much get along. And everything we do is pretty much in pairs. Now we do have the one male out there, Rough. He's still intact. So obviously he's the dominant male. Tough's out there, but he's been neutered. So he's just another kangaroo who's hanging out. But you'll see that some of the older girls, the mommy likes to hang out with Rough. And then they'll chase off some of the other females if they get around.
Interesting.
And it is typically one male to about 50 kangaroos, the females. So if there are multiple males, then it's a constant battle.
Yeah.
Fight each other to show them all who's gonna. Do you have a radio phone?
Yeah,
Oh,
no, but, yeah.
You heard it.
Was that?
It was for me. Bill for Valley. I have something in the office for you.
There's something in the office.
Okay, thank you. You're in there. Just whenever you get a moment, it's not time sensitive. Okay, thanks.
Did you get started? Huh? Did you get started? It is,
Here you go.
that's relaxing, it's peaceful. It is a lot of work, but it is peaceful.
Thank you.
You guys good on everything else? I'm gonna go get a horse and
Oh, yeah?
and I love it.
Which one?
And it's,
You got it. We don't want to wear you.
but I think having hands-on with other animals besides horses would be super cool also.
How many horses do you have?
We just got 2 more. Maybe 18. One of them is mine that I've broken and worked. She's a 3-year-old now.
Oh, cool.
But the others belong to the property owners.
Awesome. And so do y'all do like therapy rides and stuff like that, or just rides?
We do, honestly, it just kind of depends. We don't have the certification to say we're a therapy home,
Okay.
but we will take on students, that we feel, because I have an education degree, so I was a teacher, so I'm a little bit more confident with some of the disabilities than I
awesome.
the typical instructor would be.
That's
So,
cool.
we take on what we can do, but primarily we're a training barn, so we take kids to shows and.
Nice. How long have you been doing that?
I trained some when I was like older teenager and then stepped away from it to go to school and a degree, and then kind of got burned out in the education world and found this place to board a previous horse, and then they had opened up their program and they were like, hey, we'd love for you to run it, and I was like,
Nice. That's cool.
so I've been there almost 2 years.
And see, teaching can be in all aspects.
It can.
It's not just a classroom.
No.
That's cool.
Yeah. So it gives me some flexibility with my family, and it's nice to.
For sure. Now, does your family do the horses too?
My husband's not really he'll go out and help, he'll do the hay and he'll do the fixing of fences and stuff like that, but he's never ridden, he has no desire to ride.
That's me.
My daughter loves the horses, but she's not even 2 yet. So
Oh, okay.
we're not quite
Maybe
there
if you start out early enough though, like my two, I have a 19 and 18-year-old, and they really don't have anything to do with the animals.
Really?
They're afraid of most of them. But, it's just interesting now. Like they'll come in here and if we let the camels in, they find a room to go into. I'm like, these guys ain't gonna do a thing too, but, and then I've got one that's afraid of goats. So I'm like, she's like, do you see the size of them things? I'm like, I do, but they just want food.
Yeah.
They just want attention and loving. So yeah.
So my daughter is no fear. She's out there with my mom and my stepdad, and the llama or alpaca, I don't know which one they were, llamas, alpaca, she loved those. She thought they were so funny.
Oh, yeah.
Pet pony, like she is very.
We do have both the llamas and alpacas. Are y'all on the farm board next?
I think so,
Okay,
yes.
yeah, that'll be with me also, so you'll get to, they'll get up close personal with those.
Oh,
and you
yeah.
can see 'em. That's really cool.
Loves.
Oh, we have a llama in here named Liza.
No way.
So she'll get to meet her too.
That is so funny.
That'll be really cool. How'd y'all hear about us?
So I follow you guys on Facebook just because I've seen you guys at like different festivals and
Yes,
events in Cleveland. And then my mom was like trying to find something for us to do because I'm off on Friday, off in the morning on Fridays. And she's like, well, why do I take, someone's looking like they're trying to.
Oh goodness, you gonna pop your head out there, huh?
But she's looking for something to do, and so she was like, I'll just book us a tour. Liza loves animals, so.
Oh, that's awesome. Awesome, we like it.
I was like, hey, if the whole barn thing doesn't work out, let's get that.
Right, yeah, no doubt.
Are you done?
Oh, goodness.
Are you finished?
I'm gonna run in there and see if she has a couch ready.
Oh, you're like somersault. That's so
You're
funny.
more than welcome to hold her in our pouch. She just loves to be in our pouch.
What are you doing? Oh, you are so cute.
She's gonna wiggle so she can probably get her head to pop out.
What's she doing? You just chilling?
Like you can just hold her from the top. I see, sweet girl. Was that a good bottle? Good morning. Oh, was that a good bottle? Now you're tired.
For more little ones sleeping.
They do. So she still won't come out of her pouch. Like we'll hang it up. We have it just high enough where it barely grazes the ground. And she can go in and out of the pouch as she likes, but she still does not. Now Rachel can. She'll go in and out, but Rachel's gotten kind of lazy on us and likes to hang out in her pouch. But then again, she potties. So we are teaching her, we give her more stall time so that she's moving around, bouncing around and stuff instead of staying in her pouch. Oh my gosh, oh, so cute. That was good stuff, wasn't it, sweet girl? That's gonna put you to sleep. Now you got a full belly. So these girls get woke up and I come in at 8 in the morning.
We'll see if he comes down. Since I'm up. So Dash just turned a year old like 2 weeks ago. So he is still very much so a baby, and like I said, their eyesight is extremely poor, and so we have to keep that at the forefront of our minds when we're handling them. We want to use all of our movements and everything really slow because, well, they can't really see what it is that's moving in front of them. They do pick up motion really well, so even just something like this for us is normal, but could be a lot more enhanced for them. So, if a fly or something were to land on his face, going like this in front of him is going to startle him more than the fly would. And then when we pet him, you can give him real nice slow pets with an open hand down the back, but they don't really like the scritches like this, like a dog or a cat might like. And for him, it's really tempting to scratch underneath his chin because a lot of times he'll turn his neck back and be looking back behind him to see what's going on. And another animal might like some scratches down the chin like that, but for a sloth, all of a sudden something touching the neck that they can't see coming can be kind of startling. As well as the legs. I know a lot of people are really amazed by the legs because they work so much differently than ours do. And they want to pull them away and look at them like that, but for a sloth, that's how they're holding on, that's how they're secure. So for an arm to be pulled off away from whatever they're holding on to can be kind of, unsettling for them. So we try to avoid that. But do we know who wants to hold first? Okay, if you want to have a seat there in the blue chair, he's going to wrap his legs around kind of your waist area like this. And you'll put one hand underneath the booty to support him, and the other one you can place on his back to be able to give him real slow pets. We've got his breakfast over here. We'll probably feed him some of that first thing too. And this you can just kind of hold to the side of his head right here. There we go. And you're welcome to have a seat there or stand and take pictures, whatever's most comfortable for you. But Dash is a two-toed Linnaeus sloth. All of our sloths are two-toed Linnaeus. Makes more sense to say two-fingered though, because it is the front where they have the two.
Yeah.
In the back, all sloths have 3 claws on the back. So why they call them two-toed, I'm not sure. I guess they just assumed that all of them are legs for them. But I consider the fronts to be arms and then the backs to be legs. But everybody
Right.
has their own opinion. And Dash has lightened up quite a bit just within the past few months. When we first got him, that darkest color that he has in the top of his head is what color he was all over his body. You saw how much lighter Flash is in coloration,
Right.
and he'll get to that point eventually. It's just when they're first born, they're really dark because they're not born in the wild with that moss and algae already on them that mom has for camouflage. So they need some form of camouflage, and for them, it's that darker coloration. Just allows them to kind of blend into the chest of the mother with all the shadows and everything from the leaves and stuff above them. So they blend in a lot better.
And how old did you say it was?
He just turned a year old. Yeah. So when we first got him, about 5-6 months old, he was a lot smaller than he is now. He was almost all black like that. He's real dark in color. So a lot of people would come in, and it was the winter months when we first got him. A lot of people would come in with like a real dark black hoodie or something. They'd want to have pictures taken, and you couldn't really see him because he just blended in so well. But now he's kind of got that salt and pepper look about him. So is this your guys' only encounter for the day?
So we had the Highland cows
Oh,
this
okay.
morning,
Yeah.
fed them.
Yeah.
And we got the farm tour, and they moved their kangaroos, and shells are not eating as much, they moved that to tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
And the monkey.
Yeah. So you guys are lodging here?
Yeah.
Where you stay at
The little black site.
the glass site? Yeah.
The little mini
I guess
black
it's
site.
kind of nice now because it's not heating her hair, right? So it's kind of
There's a
cool
little
off.
heater in there.
Oh,
But we
okay.
didn't, I didn't turn it on.
Yeah, I was cold last night. I was
Yeah.
like, and she's all like, it's a little hot. And I'm all like, okay.
The morning though, the temperatures in the morning.
Yeah.
are good for me.
Mhm. Yeah, it's cooled off. Just the past like couple days, it's been kind of cooler. They're a lot softer than a lot of people think that they would be. Because a lot of people have seen pictures or videos of wild sloths, and the wild sloths live completely different lives than the sloths that have been born and raised in captivity.
Right.
So obviously he's held and hand-fed all day, every day, and a wild sloth is not going to be comfortable with that whatsoever. And if we were to put Dash out into the rainforest and expect him to live, we would be mistaken. He would not make it for very long. And out in the wild, they have a lot of that moss and algae all over their backs to be able to help to camouflage them in to the canopy of the rainforest when they're eating and resting up there. And it's also an entire ecosystem that lives on the back of a sloth, full of that moss and algae, and there's actually moths that are living all throughout that fur as well. And those moths serve a purpose for the sloths, and the sloths serve a purpose for the moths. So it's a symbiotic relationship. They both need each other to be able to survive. And those moths have a big, long scientific name. It's hard to pronounce, and so for our purposes, they're just called the sloth moths, because that is the only place in the entire world that specific type of moth will live, is on the back of a sloth.
Oh, wow.
And they can't fly like other moths can. They can only really crawl. They have wings, but they don't really serve them too much purpose. And they need direct contact with whatever it is that they're trying to climb onto to be able to get there. And that's actually the reason why when the sloth goes to the bathroom about once a week, that's about how often the sloth will go to the bathroom. They go all the way to the floor to go to the bathroom. They'll hold on to the base of the tree, wiggle their little booties back and forth while they're going to the bathroom. At the same time, both urine and feces will come out. And it takes just, a minute or two, and then they go right back up that tree. It would make a lot more sense for the sloth to be able to go while they're up in the canopy of the rainforest and just let it all fall, because that's when they're most covered. That's when they're most camouflaged in, is up there. And when they're down on the floor, that's when they're most exposed to like a jaguar or something that can grab hold of them. But it's really important that the sloth does that, because when the sloth goes down there, those moths will crawl down off of their backs, lay their eggs in the waste product of the sloth, and then crawl back up onto him. And then a week later, when the sloth gets the urge again, they don't just go back to the floor anywhere, they go back to the same spot every single time, because in that spot are last week's eggs that have now turned into this week's larva, and this week's larva will be next week's moths, and the cycles just always have repeated. And more eggs are laid, more moths are developed, and they need to be cycling like that, because the sloths are actually eating a portion of those moths. When they're grooming themselves, they'll lick some of it up, and it serves a purpose for them because it's their protein source. But those moths actually will produce the very specific type of bacteria that the sloth will use to digest their food in the waste product of the moths. And so that's why it's the most important reason why the sloth need those moths on their backs. Moths need the sloth because they get transportation to and from their breeding ground, and they're also feeding on all that moss and algae that's growing on their backs. So it's a whole really sensitive relationship, and if it's thrown off even just a little bit by like somebody going out and picking up a wild sloth and holding it and petting it or moving it somewhere else, could completely throw off that relationship. And it's so important that the sloths keep those moths on their backs, because in the wild, temperature is always fluctuating, and bacteria likes a steady, warm environment. And so the sloth cannot maintain their own body temperature, so if it drops outside, their temperature does as well, and the bacteria is wiped out. And if that happens for a wild sloth, and they don't have any of those moths on their backs, it's really bad news. They'll starve. They could starve with a full belly of food, just not able to digest any of it. And so that's why those wild sloths need the moths. Now here in captivity, you see he doesn't have any moths on his back. And he needed to get that bacteria from somewhere, because they're not born with that bacteria. They just get it from a little bit of a different source. They get it from their mothers. When the baby's around 3 days old is when the baby's starting to be, interested with what mom is doing, and so they'll climb onto the chest of the mother and see that she's eating and kind of lick her in the corners of her mouth and eat some of the food and lick up some of her saliva. And the bacteria that she has in her gut is also in her saliva, and it's transferred to the baby.
To start that.
Yeah. And it's a much more slower process for captive sloths to be able to gain that bacteria, because they just get just a little bit. And then the wild sloths, they have the moths that are on the moms, they crawl onto the babies, and it helps kickstart that system a lot sooner. So you really have to make sure that the captive sloths get a really good raising and get, ample time to be able to stay with mom and get all the bacteria that they can from her, and then be really careful and really easy with the transfer over from, the milk onto solid food, to make sure that they're going to be able to digest everything, because it is a slower process. But in captivity, we keep them in a stable environment. It is always 78, 79 degrees in here year round, and we keep it that way because that's what temperature that bacteria will thrive at the best. It's not so much for the sloth. The sloth's temperature can range, a lot more than that, but that's what specific temperature that bacteria will thrive at the best. And as long as we keep them in that temperature range, then that bacteria will never die out. And if it does, if we were to open up their door when it's cold outside and let the temperature drop in their enclosures, their temperature would as well, the bacteria would be wiped out, and then there's nothing you can really do about it, because they don't make any form of a synthetic bacteria to be able to give to them. And so it's really sensitive and really important that you stay on top of things like that. And that's why we always tell people that owning a sloth as a pet for a member of the general public is really not a good idea, because not a whole lot of people would understand that there's a correlation between the temperature of their environment and how they digest their food, because that doesn't make sense. It's not like that for any other animal,
Right.
but it's like that for sloths. And so that's the number one thing that does in a sloth, is that the people that will get a hold of one just doesn't realize that they have to keep their houses a lot warmer than typically. And I don't know a whole lot of people that keep their houses at 79 degrees, definitely
Me.
not myself. Really. I could not do it. Not only just the temperature requirements are extremely sensitive, but their dietary requirements, their environment, everything is very, very sensitive for a sloth. Their humidity requirements are also extremely high, so we have to mist their enclosures once a day to ensure that it stays humid enough in there for them. Because, if you think about their natural environment, it's going to be a lot more hot and humid there. And temperature fluctuates quite a bit down here in East Tennessee.
So how much, how often do you bathe them?
We don't have to that much. No, it really only, they don't have any natural scent glands, musk glands, oil glands, anything like that to them. So they're essentially odorless. In the wild, in the rainforest, they would smell just like the rest of the rainforest, which is why it's so difficult for a snake to detect them. And if a snake happens across a sloth, it's just by happenstance. They have not been able to detect them because they don't smell and they are the same temperature as the rest of their environment. And that's the two ways that snakes will find their food. But so no, the smell that you smell, which is absolutely nothing, is what's natural for them. Occasionally when they go to the bathroom, they come down to the base of the tree and they'll scoot their little booties around. And if they scoot it down too low on the ground, sometimes they'll get a few little dingleberries and we've got to clean that off. But that's about all the upkeep that we have to do for them as far as hygiene. Now occasionally Dash, since he's a lot younger and he doesn't climb as much, his nails are just a little bit sharper than Flash's and Zoe's. And so we do have to dremel those down just a little bit sometimes, which I need to do now because I've been noticing that he's really pinchy back there. And for them, for a sloth, their claws work opposite to our hands. Whereas for me, open-handed like this is my relaxed state. It doesn't take any energy to do this. But to make a fist or to squeeze or hold on to a branch of a tree and have all my body weight dangling from that, it's more stressful to do. For a sloth, squeezing down around a branch is actually their relaxed state because all of the muscles and tendons and ligaments that are in their forearms are so tight that snap down is just natural. And to have to open up that claw, they're using muscles in the back of their forearms to actually open that up, and that's what's more difficult for them to do. So when they're holding on to somebody, pinching around your sides like that, the more that you feel them start to pinch down is the more comfortable that they are. So that's why a lot of times you'll feel him kind of go back and forth and kind of give you a little massage there on your sides.
Right.
Trying to find somewhere that's most comfortable for him.
I'm sleeping.
Belly full.
And that locking mechanism that they have in their claws is actually what allows them to be able to hang on to those branches and it be completely effortless for them. And for them, if they were to be holding on to the underside of a branch and pass away, they would continue to hang there until something either rotted or knocked them off of the tree.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And it's similar for us, this is a relaxed state, so if we're sedated or when we pass away, this is how we stay. We don't all of a sudden tense up.
Right.
It's just opposite for them. They're not going to tense up and straighten up those claws to let go. Did you guys come in yesterday?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think sometimes he forgets how long that time is and he'll leave it hanging halfway out of his mouth. Especially when he's sleeping and he's not being able to control it, it sticks way far out of his mouth. When you first wake him up, he likes to, this is a weird quirk of just Dash. Zoe did not do this, and we raised Dash and Zoe in the same way, and we got them when they were both young. Zoe never did this, but Dash from day one has wanted to cover himself up with a blanket and stay on the floor of his enclosure. So he would not make it longer than a few hours in the wild. But Dash and Zoe were both raised very differently than Flash was, which is why for Flash, we've never held him. Nobody has ever held Flash, and nobody ever will unless he's the one that climbs onto us. And I just don't see that happening. Because naturally, sloths are very, very solitary animals that just want to be left alone. They're not going to naturally be born wanting to hold on to somebody. They're going to be born wanting to hold on to a tree, and people are very different than trees.
Right.
And you don't even see sloths hanging out with one another. For a lot of other groups of animals, there's a name, like a herd or a flock or a gander. But for sloths, there's no name for a group because they just don't exist.
Right.
But for virtually every other animal that will stay in a group like that, there's a name for it, but not for sloth. It's just, you just won't see it. So all three sloths that we have here were born and raised in captivity. Flash was just raised normally. After he was, weaned from his mother around 5 months old, that's about how long the mother allows the baby to stay with him, and then she'll boot them. And he basically went into solitary confinement after that, and that's what he was happy with. That's what he wanted, and that's what was natural for him. So when we got him, when he was already about 3 years old, he had never had anybody in there in his enclosures want to interact with him and talking to him. He thought we were a bunch of weirdos. And so it really took about the first 2 years of having him before he would even consider starting to come down when someone was in there. But that's why he's so attached to John, and John's been busy this morning because otherwise if he wasn't, he would have been in here talking to Flash. And Flash usually will come down pretty quick for John because that was his person. For the first 2 years there were 3 employees, 2 of which being John and Donna, the owners. The other one was Tatum. She's our longest employee that's been here. But we've grown substantially since then, and I've only been here for about 3.5 months, and so I'm still a newbie for him. And he looks at me like I'm just chopped liver. He's like, I ain't coming down for you. I'll come down for the food, but not you.
Right.
Because he doesn't actively seek out human interaction, he just actively seeks out his food.
Yeah.
And that's really why he comes down. That's the biggest reason for Flash. But Dash and Zoe both actively seek out human interaction and genuinely enjoy it. And like I said, that's not natural for them. So the breeder that we got both of them from conditioned them from a very young age for just a little bit of time throughout the days, multiple times throughout the day at specific times. Because they're very routine animals, they like to have that consistency. And so same time in the morning, same time midday, same time afternoon, he would go in, make a clicker noise, give the mom a treat, and then borrow her baby for just like 10 or 15 seconds for the first several times, and then give that baby right back. And if the baby ever started to show signs of distress or anything, it would go back because he always wanted to be a positive interaction that that baby is having with a person. And the first several interactions were obviously very weird for the baby, but mom's never stressed because she knows what's going on. She's had it done to her before too, so baby's not stressed either. So it's always a good interaction that they're having. And then by the time that they're weaned from the mother, around 5 months old, that baby's then used to being held for upwards to an hour a day at a time, and it's completely fine with that. And they kind of go from their mom being their source of comfort to then humans being their source of comfort after they don't have mom anymore. So it's a very slow, very gradual thing that we have to do to condition these babies, because it's not just going to happen overnight. If you expected it to happen overnight, you wouldn't get a sloth that actually enjoyed it. And he really does look out for the well-being of the animal and the comfortability of the animal. And we do too. We always tell people that human safety is obviously our #1 concern, but animal comfort is #2. They can't advocate for themselves, and so if I was to start to pick up that he was uncomfortable in any way, shape, or form, we would have to end the encounter and move to a different sloth or a different animal. And that's always written in, the layout of our encounters. Our encounters are the animals' encounters. They dictate whether or not they want to do it, which is why Flash, he's
hanging.
Yep, still, I think he's moved to his hammock now. Yeah, he's got his little booty set in his hammock. And so, if he doesn't come down, he doesn't come down. We'll just hold Dash the rest of the time, which obviously he's completely fine with that.
completely fine with
Yeah.
it.
Which is a little bit of a, you see his little claws on the sides, yeah. And so he looks like he's probably pretty comfortable up there.
Oh, yeah.
So we always have to
claws
adjust,
now.
yeah.
So they don't do any type of like enrichment,
They're not like other animals where they really need something like that to do. Bigger zoos and places will have things like that that the public can see, and in my opinion, it's probably more just for the public perception of the way that they keep them. Because sloths don't really, they sleep 95% of the day. They do sleep a lot, and so they don't, like other animals, they would go stir crazy. They would just pace back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. They would have nothing to do. But the sloths are just completely content sleeping. Now there are different things that we do, different ways that we offer them food, just to kind of get their brains working and get them always stimulated. But it's not as big of a thing as with a lot of other animals, and a lot of the other animals that we have here on the farm as well. But so
It's funny, the names.
Yeah, Flash and Dash.
Yeah, I had a Chihuahua named Flash.
Yeah.
So what about Zoe? How did she get hers then?
I'm not sure. I think, wasn't Zoe a name off of Zootopia as well?
I think so, yeah.
I think it
Okay.
was, yeah. And then, so I was just about to say that we are about to get our 4th sloth in,
Oh, yeah.
hopefully within the next 2 weeks. But it's
Same
just, it's
person
on,
that had.
exactly, yeah. So then by the time that we get her, she'll be raised in the same way. She'll be an ambassador sloth as well that's comfortable with being held. And when we get her, she'll be named Chloe. So then we'll have Zoe, Chloe, Flash, and Dash. Complete our sloth family. Now we thought that we were gonna get Chloe about 2 months ago. Now it was a different sloth, of course, and once she was weaned, the breeder the whole way up, as soon as she was born, he was like, I know you're on the next people on the waiting list. This sloth is gonna go to you as long as all things go well. And she was raised in the same way and everything. But after she was weaned from her mother, the breeder kind of started picking up that she was more so just tolerating being held and wasn't actively seeking it out like he really wants his babies to do. And so he just let us know, they're really within the last minute, he was like, I know that you thought this sloth was coming to you. She's just not going to be a good fit for your program because she's not genuinely enjoying it, like he really wants his sloths to be able to do. So she just went to a different facility that wasn't going to be handling her as much.
Yeah.
So she was going to be, most comfortable for her.
Good little twinkle. Cute.
We also got these little sticks here. I don't know if he's going to be interested in any of these, but you can definitely offer him this. Just
Heard
offer
something
him
moving.
the end of the little stick there. What do you think, bud? Sometimes you almost have to touch his nose with it, so I'm for him to figure out that it's there.
Are you still full?
And I think he's cool. Usually, as soon as he gets that initial touch, he's like, oh, if he wants it, he really goes for it. That tongue sticking out.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, might like that one.
Yeah.
No cucumber, zucchini today.
Zucchini, squash, and sweet potato is what we've got on the menu for this morning.
Try the squash, just in case. Oh, yeah. That's good. Done? Maybe not? No. It's the sweet potatoes.
So you guys aren't originally from the same area?
No. I'm born and raised in Morgantown.
Oh, okay.
You're from New Mexico.
I'm from New Mexico
Okay,
originally.
yeah.
Yeah. I just lived in Clarksville, Oak Grove area for 7 years, so well, like that's where I'm from.
Yeah, I was working in Clarksville. We got to know each other. And
Yeah.
became friends.
Cool.
He ate good on that.
He ate pretty good on this.
Was her birthday yesterday.
Okay.
She wanted to do sloths.
Yes.
So
How'd you hear
I
about
wanted
us?
to do Highland
TikTok.
TikTok.
Yeah, that's really our biggest platform right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My deal was the Highland cows.
Mhm.
I had that this morning.
Yeah. Who did your encounter this morning?
What was her name? Shoot, she came in and did it for us afterwards. She
Alan?
Fallon.
Oh, there
That's
you
it.
go.
It was a different name.
Mhm.
I failed to. She jumped in for us because we had I did the reservations when the computers were messed up.
Oh, no.
So like the order got mixed
Yeah.
up and it wasn't on
Yeah.
there right.
Yeah, that's
So
what
she
this-
jumped in and did it for us, and
Yeah.
I failed to. I realized that she took us to the farm store. I didn't ask what her name was.
Oh.
I heard him say it when I
Yeah.
was in there.
Yeah, for whatever, I was looking at the schedule yesterday, and usually we always have sloth encounters first thing in the morning, and there wasn't anything on there. I was like, well, that's kind of odd. And then one of the workers texted me this morning and was like, well, there actually is a sloth encounter at 10 o'clock. I was like, okay.
Yeah. I think that was because she had to call me and like split it into like 4 different invoices or something like that because the billing they were switching over to the new website and like nothing popped up.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we've definitely expanded very, very quickly with our
Yeah.
business, and so with that comes a lot of changes with trying to work out all the kinks and things
Yeah.
with the website, with booking and everything.
Yeah, I think it probably just that first one didn't make it to the book
Mhm.
system. But they straightened us.
Yeah.
I think the kangaroos are changing. Like the bottle feedings are not as often now, so they
Mhm.
book that
Yeah.
for tomorrow.
Yeah.
But we can make sure.
Because we only have the monkey tomorrow anyway, so.
Every day.
I did the monkey litter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one thing you mentioned, that it's up to them.
Oh,
That's why they moved us to 2 because there's a birthday party. They were afraid he might get upset.
Yeah.
So,
And
it's
with
his show,
Georgie's, yeah,
basically.
with Georgie's encounter, I mean, all of our animal encounters are based around the animals. They can dictate whether or not, how the encounters are going. But Georgie's encounters is the most, Sundays, he's just all back and forth. Sundays, he's like all over the people and he could care less about his toys. He's just wanting to pull hair and yank and poke and prod. And then other days, he's like completely standoffish and he just wants to play by himself. And it's still really cool just to see how he plays because that leg, or that tail is like an extra leg. He can hold all of his body weight up by it. And, you know, you're holding him or something, he'll be wrapped around your neck and all of a sudden you get a tail slapped right in your face. But yeah, his encounters are definitely, and I think the website portrays that really well, is that it is Georgie's encounters hands down. And we always try to, because his are so variable, and some will be where he's just not interested in being around the people at all. We do try to be flexible with it and give enough time to kind of go over, you know, if we need to, because he's not been wanting to be on anybody. But still with that, you know, monkeys are extremely smart animals and very advanced. And so you're not gonna pick it up and go put it onto somebody if it doesn't want to do that. Yeah, he's got a very, very powerful set of lungs on him that he uses if he's displeased. Yeah.
Oh yeah, he was the one behind the desk.
Mm-hmm.
She said he sees somebody he knows outside and he's going nuts.
Yeah. It's been about half of our time. We usually try to limit, you know, the transfer to just the once. So if you wanted to transfer now, we could, or just whenever you guys are comfortable with it. Okay. He's fine either way. Says as long as I've got somebody to hold on to.
Be watching TV with a sloth on.
Somebody said the other day that we needed to offer a sloth naps. We get a lazy boy and put it in here. Yeah, people where they can just take a nap with the sloth laying on them. And they feel kind of like a little weighted blanket or one of those little stuffed animals with the rice in them. Yeah. It's kind of a comforting thing.
This is like anybody who's eat good.
Eat good, and then
Comfy spot to lay.
just put myself into
Be
some
done with
coma and get night.
So with their eyesight, I did mention that they do have really poor eyesight. They actually have a condition that's called rod monochromacy. And that means that they only have rod cells in their eyes and no cone cells. The cone cells are what's responsible for seeing color, while the rod cells pick up motion. So they are colorblind, but they can see motion really well. And they have even more rod cells than we do. So, you know, if a little mouse were to run across the floor or something just out of the corner of my eye, my brain might not pick that up because it's not something, naturally, we're pretty up there on the food chain and we don't have anything like giants that are trying to, you know, get a hold of us or anything. And so with our brain, the way that we're wired, we're not gonna be too worried about that. But for a sloth, their vision is already a lot more narrow than ours is. But if they see something out of what's the corner of their eye, they're gonna react to it. It doesn't matter if it's just a butterfly that's flying by, or if you're petting him and your finger goes by his eye, he's gonna look at it, he's gonna react. Even though with Dash and all of our sloths, they've been born and raised in captivity, they have no idea what a jaguar is, or a harpy eagle, or anything of those big animals that are trying to get them. But it's still hardwired into them that they're supposed to be more cautious about certain things moving around them. Because in the wild, if they didn't have that instilled into them, we wouldn't have a whole lot of sloths around anymore.
Right.
And it's the same way with them going to the bathroom, even though these guys don't have any moths on them. In Flash's enclosure, you can see he's got 2 trees that go all the way to the floor, but only one has shavings around it because that is the only tree that he ever uses to go to the bathroom. And it's not just that tree, it's the one side of that tree. You can see stains all over there on the one side because he only uses that side. He won't ever go to the other side. And even though he's never had any moths on him, doesn't make sense for why he would need to do that. The Lord's still ingrained into their minds that that is what they're supposed to do every single time, because if they didn't, they wouldn't be around anymore. That's what's my most favorite part about sloths, is that sloth-moth symbiotic relationship. Because for them, if it didn't work out like that, if they just, you know, just slipped their mind one week that they're supposed to go somewhere else, or they didn't do that every time, it just wouldn't work out and we wouldn't have them anymore. And for me, just how sensitive that is and how intricate and well designed, everything just points more so that there is a creator of everything that we see here today. And none of it just came from nothing. It just, for my brain, the way that I'm wired, like I just don't understand how everything's so intricate, and even in ourselves, all of the little mechanisms that are firing and going on all throughout our body that allow us to breathe and move and just function on a day-to-day basis. For me, it's like, I just don't understand how all of this amazingness could just come from nothing, or come from very much significantly smaller than what it is now, like a tadpole or things like that. A lot of people
Here too.
Do what?
Do they hear too?
They do, since their eyesight is so
Very well.
poor, yeah, their sense of smell and their sense of hearing is a lot better. So loud, consistent noises like me talking isn't as so much as startling, but like a door, you can see when Kevin walks in and out, he tries to close it really softly. It's not just to not disturb us or the camera, it's because of Dash. If he opens and closes it really quickly, like a few of the younger ones when they come in, if they've got to get something out of the fridge or something, they drive me crazy because they slam that door a lot harder than they're supposed to, and
Right.
you'll feel him jump. He hasn't jumped yet because it's only been Kevin that's been coming in, but if somebody comes in and just closes that door, even just normally, you know, and it makes that click sound, you'll feel him tense up. Noises like that that are more sudden or louder, they pick it up a lot better than we do, and a lot more startled by it. Because for us, especially if we see it happening, we see the door opening, we know it's going to click, we're not surprised by it. They can't see it, and when they hear it, it's a lot louder than we hear it. And they do have little ears, they're just hidden by hair on both sides of their heads.
That's what I figured,
Yeah.
that's what I asked.
And when they're startled or when they're worked up about something or on edge, and they think that something might be about to grab them or something out in the wild, all of their hair will puff up and they look a lot bigger than they actually are, and the hair on their head will puff up too, and you can see their ears when they're doing that. I think that kind of allows them to hear better too, because especially if I've got a sneeze or cough or something, I try to put my hands right over his ears and kind of hold them in just a little bit more snug, so that way he's not so surprised when I do.
Right.
He's like, I'm thinking.
Well, the tongue kind of almost went out. No?
He's like, go to sleep. Oh, there it is. A lot of people are surprised to know that sloths are actually extremely good swimmers. That's actually their fastest form of transportation is by water. On the ground, that's their slowest form of transportation, crawling when they're upside down, because they're built to be upside down creatures. And when they're right side up on the ground, that's kind of like they're upside down. When their heads are backwards like that, that's their way of seeing right side up. And if they're crawling on the ground, everything's flipped upside down for them. So they're a lot more disoriented, a lot slower with their movements. Everything has to be much more calculated for them. But with swimming, their front arms are twice as long as their back legs and longer than their entire bodies. And so just with one swipe from that front arm, it propels them forward quite a bit. Thinking about dropping it. He's been on that rice mixture. He's just now started to get more of these chopped up veggies like this. But he's still figuring out how to use his little teeth back there. But the way that they digest their food, they've got kind of 4 chambers to their stomach, kind of like a ruminant animal, like a cow, and they're fermenting the leaves that they're eating, and that creates a lot of gas. Looks like he's smoking.
Right. I was outside and I have a pack of cigarettes and one of the horses was trying to get it.
Oh my goodness.
I was like, stop it. I know horses like tobacco. Stop it.
Oh my goodness. I don't think I've ever seen him hold it there that long. I don't know what he's doing.
He's like, I think I'm gonna just snooze.
But those 4 chambers make it so that they can ferment the leaves that they're eating a lot better, and that creates a lot of gas. So when they go into water, their back end just floats, and so they don't have to swim to keep themselves up, they just have to swim to keep themselves moving forward.
Does any of the food, like with dogs, if you feed them like like watermelon rinds, you know how it, like, since it ferments and stuff like that, nothing really makes them drunk or anything?
Not that I know of. You do have to be really careful about what you feed them. Like for sloths, they really like fruits, but fruits just have to be given in moderation, just as treats. Because if you give them too many fruits, that can cause an overgrowth of yeast in their systems, and that can really cause a lot of infrequent bathroom habits and things like that. So,
He fell asleep with it in his
oh
mouth.
my gosh, he's hilarious. Oh my goodness, that is the definition of lazy right there.
Mm-hmm.
Too tired to chew. He's just saving it for later.
I would say, at least when he wakes up, he'll have it.
I'm like,
Oh, yeah.
There's this one girl I watch on TikTok. She has catatonia or something like that, and like if she laughs, she falls asleep.
Oh.
So like she's trying to eat something, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, that's so wrong to sit there and kind of exploit her like that. But she sits there, she's like, it is the most funniest thing ever. I think it's funny.
I don't think he's yawned yet, so you probably haven't been able to see any of his teeth.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
Oh, has he?
Mhm.
Yeah, so they're in the very front of his mouth. They don't have any teeth at all. But the first teeth that you come to are on the sides, and they're 4 really sharp canines on 2 top and 2 bottom. And actually, every time that they close their mouths, they sharpen each other so that they keep them sharp every time. And they don't use those to eat meat or anything. You would think so, looking at the skeleton or the skull of a sloth, because back behind those, all of their molars are not flat like ours are. They're all pointed as well. So if you were to look at the skull or the skeleton of a sloth, you'd definitely think they were like top of the food chain, definitely a meat eater or something. But in reality, to see what they actually are, I think is pretty ironic. Makes you kind of double think some of the dinosaurs that people have made out to be really vicious animals when nobody's actually ever seen them.
Right.
It's like, were they actually, or were they just like cute fuzzballs like what we've got here?
Was it a dodo bird?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Or wonder if the dodo birds were actually like really vicious and feared among all the other
Right.
dinosaurs. He fell asleep with a sweet potato in his mouth.
Yes, I see that. That's super cute.
And he started to chew it and then just decided that was too much work.
It was too much work. Like, I sit there and I send her pictures all the time of either sloths or pandas. I'm like, they're my spirit animals. Pandas more or less because they're clumsy.
Yeah.
You look at him, you're like, how could that survive in the wild?
Yeah.
Right, so that's the reason why they have handlers.
Yeah.
You remember?
Oh, he drooled.
Oh my goodness. Jeez. That's so cool.
You forgot it's in there too. Now you won't try.
The flash hasn't come down this morning, but at least we get just a little bit of an upgrade because otherwise we wouldn't have been able to hold for this long. Dash is completely thrilled about the upgrade.
Right.
He would rather be holding onto a person than he would be hanging onto a tree or laying in a basket. For him, he would rather be laying, if he had the choice between the two, he'd rather be laying in a basket than he would be climbing in the trees. He does climb a lot more at night. Some people consider them to be nocturnal animals because they're a lot more active at night. But during the day, they're awake. They just don't move as much because their vision really works best at nighttime. It's kind of like night goggle vision. What they do see is not just in black and white, it's basically just blobs and shapes that they see. And so if he were to actually open his eyes and look over here, he could see the silhouette of me, but wouldn't be able to determine the difference between me or somebody else similar shape and size as me standing next to me. But how he recognizes me is through my voice. Through my voice and sense of smell. You know, I don't usually wear any perfumes or lotions or anything while I'm here, but I use the same deodorant, same detergent for my clothes, and so everybody kind of has their own natural smell to them, and they can pick up on things like that as well. I'm gonna die if he starts sucking on it.
It kind of looks like he is a little bit. His tongue's doing a funny little twitch thing.
Something else for Dash, very specific to him, is that when he's sleeping, a lot of times he'll take naps in that basket while he's down here, and that whole entire basket will go into his enclosure, and he's got branches right above him that he can climb if he wants to, but most of the time he'd rather just stay in that basket. And while he's in there, we have to have a towel in there with him too, because like I said, he likes to cover himself up and be completely under the covers, and while he does that, he'll find the corner of the blanket and start to suck on it, which makes absolutely no sense. It does for like a dog or a cat, you know, because that's a comfort thing.
Yeah.
Reminds me of their mother. For sloths, they only nurse from their mothers from about 2 to 5 weeks. It depends on the species of the sloth, and the gender has something to do with it as well. But 2 to 5 weeks, and he's a year old, and so it's been a long time since he's had anything like that, but he still finds comfort in that. So to me, that just does not make any more sense, and I'll have to do some research on that to figure out why that is. But to him, it's comforting, and in the mornings when I go to get him, and I take that blanket off of him, he's got like 4 or 5 little wet spots all over it from where he's been sucking on it.
My friend, when we were little, she used to have this, you know, the green blankets, and they have that, it's like a silk border. Have you ever seen those?
Yeah.
She used to do that. She used to take her
Suck on
thumb
it,
and
yeah.
suck on it.
Mm-hmm.
You drunk,
And for sloths, you know, mother sloths don't have the same type of connection with their babies as a lot of other mammals do. Especially like, I think horses are the easiest thing for me to relate to, because if you separate a mother and her foal, even if the mom's not producing any more milk and the foal is weaned, if you separate them, they're still going to be whinnying for each other, trying to get to each other. And after, you know, if they're continue to stay together, the foal's going to stay with that mom for, you know, a long time after it's even done nursing.
Right.
But for a sloth, they don't have that same type of connection. Of course, when the baby is first born, the gestation period is 11 months. So they've spent a long time already cooking that baby, so they want to make sure it has the best chance possible. When they give birth, they do give birth up in the tops of the trees. And so if the baby were to fall, hopefully that umbilical cord would catch him. But if the umbilical cord snapped as well and the baby did fall, she would go down and get it first thing. But after a few weeks or months and that baby, you know, were to fall or something, she doesn't have as much of a connection with it as other
just
mammals
falls.
do. Yeah.
Is that the reason why, like, if in the rainforest and stuff like that, usually that's like if they fall and everything, somebody's walking by, that's generally
Could be. Now one of my things that I'm still researching about and don't feel 100% positive about is the sanctuaries that will just be for baby sloths. And of course they make a lot of money off of their social media. And I'm sure that it takes a lot to be able to run a place like that too, and they've got to have income from somewhere. But I'm not sure how many times the baby sloths have been abandoned and that it's actually, you know, they've found it would make a lot more sense for people to go out and just see a mother with her baby and just snatch that baby. So that's what I'm still kind of battling that, still kind of going back, there's different opinions about it, but still figuring out that one. Because, you know, that does happen quite a bit, but sloths are, you know, deep into the rainforest a lot of times, and it's going to be pretty rare that a person just happens to be walking by at the same time that a mother drops her baby. So that's still to be determined, but yeah, in general, they really aren't that good at moms. They're not as terrible of moms as kangaroos. I'm sure that you'll hear that talk when you do them tomorrow. But kangaroos are absolutely terrible mothers. They will just boot that baby as soon as, if something were to be chasing them and they felt threatened, they'd kick that baby out and let whatever it is eat it.
Oh,
So
wow.
they can get away, yeah. And they can do that because for them, they've got 2 uteruses and they can be pregnant at all times. They'll have one in the pouch, one in the chamber, ready to go. And so it works out for them, but for a sloth, it takes 11 months, and they can only do that, ever so often. About every 2 years is when they'll have another baby. And so if they lose one, it takes a while to be able to have another. So they want to make sure it has the best chance possible. But around 5 months old, after that baby is technically weaned, by 5 weeks old, still stays with mom for a while just for protection and to be able to figure out how to be a sloth, how to move, where to eat, what to eat, things like that.
That biological system set up.
Exactly, yep, exactly. So they have to stay with them for a while for that, but after around 5 months old for the 2-toed sloths, 3-toed sloths stay with their mothers for about a year. They're a lot smaller. At their max, they get to be about 10 pounds. 2-toed sloths can get to be up to 20. So it is a difference in the size. And so the babies will stay with the moms for a little bit longer, but for a 2-toed, by around 5 months old, it's not always that the mother will wean the baby. Occasionally the baby will wean itself and they'll just be like, all right, see you mom, I figured out all that I need.
I don't like it anymore,
Yeah.
bye.
And sloths they kind of have their own little preferences, and there's a few different varieties of those Cercophia trees that grow down in Central and South America. They must all taste just a little bit different because sometimes a sloth will find the tree that they like the best, that type of species, and they'll go from tree to tree to tree of that same type and only eat that same type. And so if mom's in a tree that they're not really digging, they'll go find their own. So.
Can't climb down. It'll take me 5 years to do so, but
Hello, did you get to go to the store?
He does not like the construction.
Oh, I bet not, that's a lot of noise. You didn't like the construction, I don't blame you. Go back to your little solitary room. So they can feel through their shells, it's just like your fingernails, just a lot of layers of it. Yeah. Oh, yeah, really? So he was given to us, but he used to run around the house just like that. And then those people had a toddler when she started walking, they just didn't think of two of them yet. Because obviously the